Recently, I've come across a new breed of YouTube channels where creators would pretty much edit and showcase episodes of their lives, almost like a reality TV show where in a set period of time, a week maybe, they would set out to accomplish something like set up online stores or succeed in a real estate. And I found them extremely interesting and catchy, and I was intrigued, and naturally I wanted to figure out why that was the case. And I reduced it to the fact that it's full of suspense. It presents a story, a narrative. There's the hero's journey. Will they pull it off? What's going to happen? I was naturally curious and driven to find out more. In the same time, I was also working with a few entrepreneurs and artists in London who are also creating stuff and digital content and building their online brands. So I was actually following them with my camera and documenting their journeys. And I came to this realization, albeit a fairly obvious one, that reality TV is life on steroids, whilst life is reality TV happening at maybe 1/10 of the speed, of the pace. The way these challenges, the way these shows are edited, is that in 10 minutes you pretty much get to see the whole week of highlights of the ups, of the downs, of the whole emotional suspense of this journey. And in this context, it's not just reality TV, but it's almost like a game. It's a challenge that they set out to accomplish, and that keeps everyone hooked into finding the closure and the resolution for it ultimately. Seeing these YouTube shows and these people's lives unfold before my eyes, I realized that life is pretty much a reality show for every single one of us. In fact, you live your own reality TV show. So imagine for a second that there's a small crew of camera people following you around, documenting every step of your daily life, looking over your shoulder when you meet people, when you interact with them, your secret tacit goals and ambitions and challenges that you set out to accomplish every day. And you realize that that's actually not very far from the truth. And yes, whilst for you it will look and seem very real, which is after all your everyday life, for the viewer, for the observer, it will be nothing more than just a story in which they will have bought emotionally. They will be curious about what's going to happen. They will be invested in it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's going to be nothing more than just a story for them. And then the question goes, what would it take for you to view life that way? And is it any helpful? What's the point of doing that to begin with? Over the years, the kind of books that I've read have helped me realize that life can be pretty much seen as a tragedy and as a comedy all at the same time. And it is ultimately up to us to create that separation between what happens to us and how we identify with those things. And why would we do that? It's because the suffering and sort of limits that we put on our performance and on our relationship with life itself can be found here and can be also put to rest here. I'm going to try and elaborate on this a little bit here, but a better job is obviously done by the good Allegory of the Cave by Plato, which is written in the Republic, and you'll find loads of videos on YouTube about that. I'm not going to elaborate on that here. But the main gist, if you're interested in hearing it, is that we basically live life almost like we're facing a wall and there's this fire behind us, and all we see on this wall is just reflections and projections of stuff that's really happening behind the fire and which we can't really see with our naked eye. And the importance of that is that the moment people, these sort of savages that are chained facing the wall, are dragged into the light and get to see reality for what it really is, they recognize the illusion of it and the unnecessary sort of buy into this thing that's ultimately like a movie. And then there's the questioning of reality itself, of the fabric of it, of what is it beyond the senses of what we perceive through our five senses, and whether we can ever even dare to hope to see beyond those confinements. But anyway, this is a complete digression, so let's come back to the practicalities of this video. So why do we like games? Because they're fun, because they allow us to respond to our need for exploration and for discovery, all the while respecting our natural instinct for survival and for safety and coping. It's how kids come to explore the world and to discover it, and it's how we ultimately entertain ourselves in a sort of safe environment with potentially unlimited upsides but with zero downside. In life, we fear so many things as if they can kill us, as if they can pose a threat to us that's really non-desirable. But when we look at it and realize that this just comes from an old way of thinking, an old way of looking at things through a reptilian brain, we are able to realize that most of these things, especially in a social context of social interactions with other people, are not really there to kill us. The worst thing that can happen, obviously, to default in life is to die, but that fear of death is most of the times irrational. And when we're able to see it for what it is, that creates this illusion, this idea that life is a game and can be played as such. And when do we hate games? It's when they're not entertaining enough, fun enough, challenging enough, or when they're too challenging and quite the contrary, we feel like we can never win them. and then we disconnect. I've come across the idea that procrastination is basically postponing the desirable future for the present that just seems like it's easier to reach, and that can give us that instant hit of dopamine and satisfaction and reward. And by doing this, we basically realize that if we were to look at life as a game that we feel like we can't win or we can't engage with, that's when we start straying away from the things that we claim we want for our lives and end up procrastinating and distracting ourselves with other things that might not be conducive to our goals and objectives. So what can we do about that? We can, for a start, pick games that are respecting certain conditions. In a book called Barking Up the Wrong Tree, I've come across this acronym, which is WNGF, which refers to games as fitting for clear conditions, them being winnable, presenting new and newly renewing challenges, with goals that are set and attainable, and with F, which stands for feedback, a loop that provides us with feedback upon each and every one of our actions. And in the context of the games that we play, the best thing we can do is pick the right appropriate games to keep ourselves engaged and meeting all these conditions. And in essence, this kind of gives us a recipe for how we can live and set about any aspects of our lives, whether it's performance in a certain domain or just staying engaged and motivated and driven. And some people find it useful to deal with procrastination, with lack of productivity. Other people find it useful to find a purpose and new joy in life. As an overall conversation, I hope this opens up something for you and that it helps you reframe some of the issues that you might have with the aforementioned topics. And it has certainly helped me over the time to sort of not take some of the things that I want so seriously and to engage emotionally with them so much that I would end up putting unnecessary pressure onto me that would limit me from taking any action whatsoever. Again, because I use myself as an example, I'll just mention here in passing that even the making of these videos is actually a very important learning curve for me, because the moment when I look at it as a game, it becomes a lot more fun to pursue and to deliver, such as, for example, my game now is to produce a video a day, to go through the motions of it. And I've successfully applied this at many other areas of my life as well, at getting my degree, at my job, and in many other things that I will bring up in conversation in the future. So I'll leave you with that for today. Hope this is useful. Again, as always, share and leave your comments below, and I shall see you in the next one.